My life as a misunderstood genius began with a blank piece of paper, the one I was supposed to write my resignation on. In my defense, I was running on zero sleep and fumes of pure spite. I was a programmer, a cog in the great grinding machine of a tech giant, and my only ambition was to quietly quit life and do the bare minimum until I could retire to a small cabin with good Wi-Fi. My name is Jacob Miller, but everyone calls me Jake. And today, I was quitting for real. The final straw wasn't a mountain of code I had to debug, or my hairline's strategic retreat from my forehead. It was an email from a project manager that landed in my inbox at 3 in the morning. He wanted a new feature for our app's login screen, a button that would dynamically change color based on a user's mood. I stared at the request for a full 10 minutes. Then I closed my laptop, lay down in bed, and watched the dawn creep into my tiny Seattle apartment. In that moment, I achieved enlightenment. I was done. Life was too short to spend it building nonsense for morons. I walked into the office, ignoring the sea of cubicles, and made a beeline for human resources. The HR rep, a fresh-faced kid named Sarah, handed me a voluntary termination form. I picked up a pen and hovered over the fields. Name? Jacob Miller. Department? Engineering. Title? Senior software engineer. Reason for leaving. How do I even begin? To pursue my passion for not being here. Too cliché. Personal reasons? Too lazy. The project manager is a certified imbecile. Too honest. It might screw up my last paycheck. My brain, completely fried from the all-nighter, was a blank slate. Thinking was a non-starter. Fine. I'll go with that. I left every section blank except for my personal information, scrawled my signature at the bottom, and handed it back to Sarah. She stared at the almost entirely empty form, her brow furrowed. Jake, the reason for leaving section. What's there to misunderstand? I asked, my face a perfect mask of exhaustion. She blinked, then looked down at the form again, as if the blank space held the secrets of the universe. I just need to get this approved. She scurried away, clutching the paper like a holy relic. Whatever, as long as it got filed. I went back to my desk to pack my meager belongings, a mechanical keyboard, a wrist guard I'd had for 5 years, and a small cactus. That was it. My desk was as clean as the day I'd started. My coworkers were whispering, casting complicated looks my way. Is Jake really leaving? Heard he got into it with marketing again. Shame. He's the best coder we've got, just doesn't play the game. Good for him. This place is a soul-crushing nightmare. I tuned them out, placing my cactus into a brown paper bag. I was about to perform the final ritual, unplugging my computer tower, when my department head, Vice President Mark Vance, hurried over. He was a schmoozer who'd PowerPoint his way to the top, a man whose primary skill was muddying the waters. He clapped a clammy hand on my shoulder, a synthetic smile plastered on his face. Jake, my boy, let's not be hasty. It's normal for creative types to have a little fire. Whatever the issue is with the PM, I'll smooth it over. I looked at him, my expression dead serious. Mark, this isn't an impulse. It's a moment of clarity. Clarity about what? You can't earn back your life, but you can definitely work yourself to death. His smile froze. He probably thought I was making a dig at the company's crunch culture, and his face soured. Now, what's that supposed to mean? This company has been good to you. Ms. Reed thinks very highly of your work. Ms. Reed? Evelyn Reed, the CEO. The woman was a myth. Most of us, myself included, had only seen her once in 3 years, from a distance at the annual holiday party. Tall, elegant, always in a perfectly tailored suit, her expression carved from ice. A walking, talking iceberg. She thought highly of me? A code monkey in the server mines? Right? I didn't have the energy to argue. The paperwork is in, Mark. See you around. Seeing he couldn't sway me, his face darkened. Don't be an idiot, Jake. You think you'll find another job this good out there? I ignored him, clutching my cactus, and turned to leave. Just then, the glass doors to our section of the office slid open. The entire floor went silent. Evelyn Reed walked in. She wore a black pantsuit, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that highlighted her sharp jawline. Flanked by 2 assistants, she radiated an aura so powerful it felt like the office temperature dropped 10 degrees. Everyone shot to their feet. Mark's face instantly morphed into a fawning grin. He practically skipped over to her. Ms. Reed, what a surprise to have you visit our floor. Evelyn didn't even look at him. Her gaze swept across the room and landed on me, or more accurately on the brown paper bag in my hand. "You're leaving." Her voice was as cool and crisp as her appearance. I nodded. What did I have to lose? Why? Before I could answer, Mark jumped in. "Ms. Reed, Jake's just letting off a little steam. A millennial thing, you know." I'm talking him down. Evelyn's brow twitched in a flicker of annoyance. She took a sheet of paper from her assistant. It was my resignation form. She held it up. "You wrote this?" "I did. Reason for leaving, blank." She stated it as a fact, but her eyes bored into me, trying to see into my soul. "Are you telling me the problems with this company are too vast to fit on a single page?" I froze. What? No, that's not it. I was just too tired to write anything. The office was dead quiet. Every eye in the place was ping-ponging between me and the CEO. They were all expecting an execution. Mark was sweating bullets. "Ms. Reed, please, that's not what he meant." "Be quiet." She cut him off, her voice like cracking ice. Her eyes were still locked on me. Or is it that the real reasons are beyond words? A systemic, deep-seated rot that no amount of corporate jargon or empty platitudes could ever hope to describe. I was completely lost. "Lady, what are you even talking about? I don't understand a single word." I looked at her intensely serious face, then at the blank paper. I was just lazy. For real. How was I supposed to answer that? If I said, "Yes, you're absolutely right," I'd sound like I was staging a coup. If I said, "No, I just couldn't be bothered," would she even believe me? Could a billionaire CEO comprehend the profound laziness of a burnout coder? My mind raced. Survival instinct took over. I chose the safest possible response. Silence. I met her gaze with a profound, soul-weary emptiness. It was a look I'd perfected over years of pointless meetings. My 1,000-yard stare. To an outsider, it might look like I was contemplating the heat death of the universe. In reality, I was wondering if I should get tacos or a pizza for lunch. To Evelyn Reed, my silence was clearly a confirmation. Her expression shifted. The scrutiny melted away, replaced by, was that admiration? Yes, it was definitely admiration. She slowly lowered the paper and said something that turned the entire office to stone. "Well said. Rather than lodge a useless complaint, you've used the profound tool of absolute negation to issue a wake-up call." Utter silence. Mark's jaw was hanging open. My coworkers looked like they'd just seen a UFO land on the roof. I just stood there. Seriously? Are you a novelist on the side? Do you get paid to overanalyze things? Evelyn took 2 steps forward, stopping right in front of me. "Your resignation is denied. Effective immediately, you no longer need to report to the office." My heart leaped. This was it. Fired, but with extra steps. "I'm creating a new position for you. Strategic advisor to the CEO." My brain blue screen. "Your salary will be 5 times your current compensation. No KPIs, no clocking in. I have only one requirement." She paused, her words precise. "When I need it, you'll provide me with your perspective." Without giving me a chance to react, she turned and walked away. The sharp click of her heels on the floor sounded like a drumbeat echoing in the stunned silence. At the door, she stopped and looked back at me. "Don't disappoint me, Jacob. A man who uses a blank page to critique the world must be a very clever man indeed." The glass doors closed, and the oppressive atmosphere vanished with her. The office remained silent for a full minute. Then it exploded. Everyone was staring at me like I was an alien. Mark's face cycled through white, red, and a deep, mottled purple. I stood there, still holding my cactus. I looked down at the plant, then up at the ceiling tiles. Was it just me, or had my life just taken a sharp turn into the twilight zone? I never did manage to quit. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was trapped. Less than 10 minutes after Evelyn left, the head of HR personally delivered a new contract to my desk. Position, strategic advisor. Salary, a number that made me count the zeros twice. Term, 1 year. Termination fee, a figure that would indebt my great-grandchildren. The most insane part was a special clause. The employee, Jacob Miller, is not required to be physically present at the office or adhere to any and all company policies. The employer, Evelyn Reed, reserves the right to consult with the employee on any matter at any time, to which the employee must respond with sincere insight. The word sincere was in bold. I felt like I was reading a fantasy novel. Mark Vance stood a few feet away, his face a thundercloud of jealousy and hatred. I knew my new title had made me a permanent enemy. But what could I do? I was a victim here, too. I signed the contract. That termination fee was no joke. As I walked out of the building for the last time, contract in one hand and cactus in the other, I felt the collective gaze of the entire company on my back. The moment I stepped outside, the Seattle sun, a rare sight, hit my face. I was free, albeit in the weirdest way imaginable. Back in my tiny studio apartment, I tossed the contract on the table and collapsed onto my bed. Strategic advisor? A 5-fold salary increase? I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and stared at my familiar, depressing 4-figure balance. It all felt like a dream. Ping. A text message. From the bank. Your checking account, ending in XXXX, received a direct deposit of $50,000 on October 26th. Your new balance is $50,004.50. I shot up in bed like I'd been electrocuted. 50 grand? I rubbed my eyes. It was real. Below the main text was a small note. Consultant signing bonus. My hand was shaking. I'd never seen that much money in my life. I lay back down, placing my phone on my chest, feeling its weight. So this is what it felt like to be rich. Simple, unpretentious, and frankly a little boring. I started to laugh. A deep, rolling laugh that shook my whole body. Fina. Strategic advisor it is. All I had to do was be sincere. And if there's one thing I had in spades, it was sincerity. She asked me about the weather. I'll tell her it's raining. She asked what I had for lunch. I'll tell her it was a burrito. I could live with this. First order of business? Upgrade my life. I booted up my old, wheezing computer and navigated to a browser tab I'd had open for months. A shopping cart filled with parts one could only dream of. A top-of-the-line gaming rig. A 4K curved monitor. An ergonomic gaming chair, a new mechanical keyboard, professional-grade headphones. The whole setup ran over 10 grand. The old me would have had a heart attack. The new me didn't even blink. Add to cart. Check out. Done. I looked at the order confirmation page with a profound sense of satisfaction. This was the life I was born to live. No work, plenty of money, and endless video games. Corporate strategy could go to hell. From this day forward, I, Jake Miller, was a blissfully happy, gainfully unemployed man. The next few days were paradise. Delivery drivers became my new best friends, dropping off huge boxes that filled my small apartment. I spent an entire day assembling my new command center. When I finally hit the power button and the RGB lights flared to life, the 4K screen displaying the login page for my favorite game, I almost wept with joy. The resolution, the frame rate. My old computer was a tractor by comparison. I logged into Ethereum Chronicles, the MMORPG I'd been playing for 3 years. I loaded up my warrior, Westwind, and began my new life of glorious slacking. I slept until noon, ordered food, and lost myself in a digital world. Eat when hungry, sleep when tired, with no project manager to call me in the middle of the night. It was better than the game itself. I thought this bliss would last forever. Then, a week later, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello. I mumbled, a French fry hanging out of my mouth. It's me. The cool, female voice on the other end took me a second to place. Evelyn Reed. How did she get my personal number? Oh, right. The contract. My heart jumped into my throat. Here we go. The consultation. I swallowed the fry, sat up straight, and cleared my throat. Ms. Reed. Hi. What are you doing? Her tone was unreadable. Contemplating, I said, pulling the most high-minded word I could think of out of thin air. Contemplating what? She pressed. The meaning of life. I committed to the bit. There was a pause on the other end. I could feel my palms start to sweat. Was she buying this? Was she going to dock my pay for being a pretentious idiot? Good, she said suddenly. It seems you're already in the right headspace. Wait, what? I have a project that's run into some trouble, she said, getting straight to the point. It's a social media app we launched last year, Nexus. We poured a fortune into it, but user engagement is abysmal and daily active users are in a death spiral. It's on the verge of being shut down. I said, my eyes glued to my monitor. My character was standing outside a dungeon, waiting for a group. I've reviewed the project files and used the app myself. It's a mess of features. It has instant messaging, a social feed, short-form video, live streaming, even built-in minigames. Mark Vance's strategy was to create an all-in-one platform, cramming in every popular feature on the market to attract the largest possible user base. Right, I muttered. A group invite popped up. I clicked accept, but the users hate it. They find it bloated and unfocused. The board wants to kill the project, to cut our losses. I could hear a trace of weariness in her voice. Okay, I said, now fully focused on my screen as my party entered the dungeon. The first boss, a massive lava giant, roared to life. I want your perspective, Evelyn said finally. My perspective? I didn't know the first thing about social media apps. The only one I used was Messenger to talk to my mom. What could I possibly say? I was frantically mashing keys, trying to dodge the giant's area of effect attacks, while my brain churned. I'd barely heard what she said, but a few words stuck out. Mess of features all in one, bloated. It sounded exactly like every project I'd ever hated working on. A project manager who wants everything, and you end up with a product that does nothing well. A familiar rage began to bubble up inside me. When you try to be everything, you end up being nothing. I snapped, the words tumbling out, laced with the frustration of 1,000 terrible feature requests. Users aren't idiots. They know what they want. You throw a bunch of crap they never asked for at them, and it just pisses them off. I was hammering my keyboard, my character dodging and weaving. Can't you just make it simple? Just do one thing and do it right. All this flashy nonsense is useless. I was in the zone now, channeling years of repressed coder rage. Like me right now. I'm just trying to kill a damn mob in peace, and you're hitting me with pop-ups asking me to live stream, to join a dance-off, to make new friends. I don't want to make new friends. Just cut all the useless crap. Cut it. Cut it all. I roared, and at the same moment, my warrior landed the killing blow. The lava giant crumbled, exploding into a shower of golden loot. I let out a long breath. That felt good. The other end of the line was completely silent. It was only then that I realized I'd just vented my in-game frustrations directly to my billionaire CEO. Oh crap. My job. My 5-time salary. My gaming rig. My beautiful, lazy life. Ms. Reed. I stammered, trying to backpedal. I didn't mean. No, she interrupted, her voice sounding strangely thrilled. I understand. What do you understand? Elegance in simplicity, she murmured, as if in a trance. Strip away every redundant feature. Retain only the core value. Give a choice. Back to the user. Jake, she said, her voice filled with a newfound energy. You've done it again. My brain stalled. Again? I know what to do now. And with that, she hung up. I sat there, holding my phone, listening to the dial tone, my mind a complete blank. Did she just misinterpret my gaming rant as profound business advice? I looked back at my screen. A message popped up in the party chat. Dude, what was that screaming about? You okay? Another teammate chimed in. Yeah, you got a personal grudge against that boss or something? I sighed and typed back a reply. It's nothing. Just killed a $50 million project. My teammates sent back a series of question marks. Bro, I think you've been playing too long. I thought the Kill the Project incident was just a weird one-off, but it escalated faster than I could have imagined. 2 days later, while my warrior Westwind was farming mobs in the wilderness, my phone rang again. It was Evelyn. I resigned myself to my fate and answered, bracing for the next wave of delusional interpretation. The project team followed your guidance and stripped every secondary feature from the Nexus app, she began, her voice light, almost cheerful. All that's left is the core function. Anonymous, one-on-one text chat. Oh, I said, trying to land a hit on an elite monster. We've rebranded it. It's called Echo now. The idea is that you only hear the voice you want to hear. No social feed, no videos, no live streams. You open the app, there's just one button, begin Echo. Uh-huh. Do you know what happened? What? I asked absently. 12 hours after launch, we had 500,000 new users. The servers crashed. Twice. I choked on my Coke, spraying it all over my monitor. I'm sorry, what? Because I complained about a video game, a dying app was resurrected as a viral hit? Was that even possible? This was insane. The entire project team thinks you're a god, Evelyn continued. They're saying your line, give the choice back to the user, is the ultimate expression of modern product philosophy. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. I just wanted to play my game in peace. To celebrate the project's success and to thank you, I'd like to take you to dinner tonight. Dinner? My first instinct was to say no. Being around this woman was stressful. Who knew what grand business strategy she derived from the way I held my fork? I'll text you the address. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. And just like that, she hung up, leaving me no room to refuse. I sighed. Fine. A free meal is a free meal. I was getting tired of instant ramen anyway. At 6:30, I took an Uber to the address she'd sent. It was a Michelin-starred French restaurant in the heart of downtown. A valet in a crisp tuxedo was opening doors for patrons. I stood before the gilded entrance in my wrinkled t-shirt, cargo shorts, and a pair of flip-flops, feeling like an extra who'd wandered onto the wrong movie set. I was debating whether to just leave when a black Bentley pulled up. The door opened, and Evelyn stepped out. She was wearing a simple white dress under a light trench coat, her hair down, softening the sharp lines of her face. She looked less like a CEO and more approachable. She saw me and paused. Her gaze flickered to my flip-flops for a fraction of a second. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. This was it. She was going to tell me I wasn't fit for civilized society. But all she said was, "Let's go in." There was no judgment in her voice. The host gave my outfit a disdainful glance, but seeing Evelyn seated us respectfully. The restaurant was all dim lighting, soft classical music, and flickering candlelight. I felt profoundly out of place. This was more nerve-wracking than a code review with the entire senior engineering staff. Evelyn must have noticed my discomfort. She handed me the menu. "Order whatever you like." I opened it. I recognized the letters, but the words they formed were in alien language. Pan-seared foie gras with fig reduction, sous vide wagyu tenderloin, black truffle risotto. The prices were even more alien. An appetizer cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I closed the menu and pushed it back toward her. "You order. I'm not picky." She gave me a long, searching look. I had no idea what she was reading into my simple statement this time. She ordered for both of us in fluent French, then had the sommelier open a bottle of red wine. The silence while we waited for the food was awkward. I buried my face in my phone. Evelyn didn't speak either, just watched me with an unnerving intensity, like I was a specimen under a microscope. "Why did you choose a blank page to express yourself?" she finally asked. Here we go. I knew this dinner came with strings attached. I put down my phone and sighed. How could I explain that I was just lazy? She wouldn't believe it. I decided to try an artistic version of the truth. "Ms. Reed, have you ever had a million things you wanted to say, but you realized that saying any of them would be a complete waste of breath?" It was the honest truth of how I felt when I quit. Talking to those idiots was pointless. Evelyn's eyes lit up. "Yes," she nodded. "Language has its limits, but meaning is infinite. When an idea is too profound for the vessel of words, any attempt at expression feels hollow." See? She was off again. I decided to change the subject. I pointed out the window. Down on the street was a taco truck with a long line of people. "Ms. Reed, you ever eat at a place like that?" She followed my gaze, a small frown on her face. "A food truck?" "Yeah," I said. "Sometimes we spend all this time and money chasing these fancy, complicated things, when it turns out the most satisfying meal, the thing that really hits the spot, is a $2 taco from a truck on the corner." I meant every word. This fancy meal was giving me anxiety. I'd rather be down there, ordering 3 al pastor tacos with extra cilantro. But to Evelyn, my words took on a different meaning. The wine glass in her hand paused halfway to her lips. She stared at me, a look of stunned revelation on her face. "I see," she whispered. "What do you see now?" "You're saying the Nexus app was like this expensive French dinner. It looks elegant and sophisticated, but it doesn't suit the appetite of the average user. What we should be making is the taco truck. Simple, direct, brutally effective, and focused entirely on satisfying a core hunger." I just stared at her, my mouth hanging open. What could I even say? She had already constructed an entire business philosophy for me, complete with metaphors. I could only nod sagely, take a sip of my water to hide my panic, and offer a few profound-sounding words. Less is more. Evelyn's eyes shone. She looked at me with the reverence of an explorer who'd just discovered a new continent. "Jake, you are a natural-born product visionary," she said with genuine awe. "No, you're more than that. You're a philosopher who understands the human soul. I nearly choked on my water. A philosopher? I just wanted to be a slacker who got left alone. The rest of the dinner passed in a surreal haze. I barely ate, too busy playing the part of a wise, silent guru while Evelyn spun my offhand comments into gold. It was exhausting. On the ride home, I got a text from her. Tonight's conversation was incredibly enlightening. Thank you. It was immediately followed by another text. From my bank, your checking account ending in XXXX received a direct deposit of $100,000 on October 28th. Your new balance is $149,854.50. Memo, project bonus. I stared at the number and had a terrifying thought. Was being a philosopher really this profitable? The Echo app didn't just succeed, it exploded. With zero marketing, its minimalist design and sharp focus on anonymous connection made it go viral among young people. A godsend for introverts. Finally, a place where I can just speak my mind. The interface is so clean. I love it. The App Store reviews were glowing. The company's internal Slack channels were on fire. Did you hear? Jake Miller saved the Nexus project with a single sentence. Who's Jake Miller? Some new genius they hired. Not new. He's that guy from engineering who was always half asleep. Didn't he quit? Quit? Dude, he's Ms. Reed's personal strategic advisor now. Makes 8 figures. No way. The guy who wore flip-flops to work every day. It's true. I saw VP Vance talking to him, and he looked like a kid in the principal's office. I sat back in my new gaming chair, sipping a DR, pepper, and scrolling through the messages. The legends being spun about me were utterly absurd. I hadn't done anything. I played a video game and ate a meal. Now, I was a genius. This world was nuts. The person least happy about all this, of course, was Mark Vance. In the executive conference room, Evelyn sat at the head of the table, her expression serene. Echo's initial success proves our previous strategy was fundamentally flawed, she announced to the assembled executives. Bigger is not better. Focus is everything. Her eyes drifted pointedly toward Mark. His face went pale. The original Nexus app was his baby, his ticket to a bigger promotion. Now, his entire strategy had been repudiated, and the slacker he despised, Jake Miller, was being hailed as the hero. It was a public humiliation. Ms. Reed is right, one of the other VPs chimed in. If it weren't for Mr. Miller's insight, we'd still be pouring money into that sinking ship. Yes, less is more. So profound. I heard he explained the entire philosophy to Ms. Reed using only a taco truck as an analogy. That's nothing. The man submitted a blank resignation letter. That's a whole other level of thinking. The room filled with praise for me. I wasn't even there, but my legend was everywhere. Mark Vance listened, his knuckles white as he gripped the pen in his hand. Why? Why Jake Miller? A lazy coder who did nothing but slack off all day. How did he get the CEO's favor? Was it just because he was good at playing the silent, mysterious type? Mark wasn't buying it. He was consumed by jealousy. He was going to expose Jake Miller for the fraud he was. After the meeting, Mark cornered one of his loyalists, a team lead in the engineering department. I want to find out what Jake Miller is doing all day, he hissed. He doesn't have to come to the office, right? There's no way he's sitting at home masterminding corporate strategy. Sir, I don't know if that's a good idea. He's Ms. Reed's guy now. Just do it. Mark slammed his hand on a desk. I want proof that he's slacking off. I want Ms. Reed to see exactly what kind of charlatan she's hired. Yes, sir. Right away. I, of course, was blissfully unaware. I was in Ethereum Chronicles, organizing my guild, the Slacker Syndicate, for an assault on a new raid boss. It was the biggest event our guild had ever attempted. I'd spent days planning for it, studying maps, analyzing boss mechanics, assigning roles, even creating a detailed spreadsheet for positioning and cooldown rotations. I couldn't help it. It was the programmer in me. I hated work, but I loved logic and efficiency. I set up a private voice channel for the raid leaders. Then I started a live stream. Not for an audience, but for myself. It was the easiest way to get a big picture view of the battle. I password protected the stream, so only my guild officers could watch. All right, Syndicate, listen up. I yelled into my headset. Tanks, get in there and hold aggro. Healers, watch their health bars. DPS, I want you to unleash everything you've got. For the Syndicate, let's go. The channel erupted in a chaotic symphony of battle cries and frantic clicking. I was completely focused, my mind racing. Team 3, watch your positioning. Get out the fire. Mages on Team 5, burn down that lich priest now. Consumables team, get those potions flowing. Don't let us down. My voice, broadcast through the stream, reached every member of the raid. It also reached Mark Vance. He was sitting in his office with his lackey, staring at a laptop. They had managed to crack the password to my stream. There, sir. Look, the team lead said excitedly. He just plays video games all day. He's even streaming it. Mark watched my warrior, Westwind, on the screen and listened to my frantic commands. A cruel smile spread across his face. Excellent. He took out his phone and started recording the screen. This was the proof he needed. He was going to show everyone what their sainted strategic advisor really was. Record everything. Mark ordered. And get screenshots of the chat. Tanks, healers. What is this nonsense? And his guild, the Slacker Syndicate. What a joke. Mark could already picture the scene. Him presenting this evidence to the board, and me being thrown out in disgrace. He laughed, a low, triumphant sound. Jake Miller, he whispered, let's see you talk your way out of this one. A conspiracy was brewing, and I was completely oblivious, too busy cheering over the conquest of a virtual castle. I had no idea that a tidal wave of public humiliation was about to crash down on me. For Mark Vance, this was the biggest gamble of his career. He was betting that Evelyn Reed, faced with undeniable proof, would choose her company's reputation over a fraud. He couldn't wait to see the look on her face. The next morning, the company held its monthly board meeting. I naturally was not there. I was at home, sleeping in. The raid had gone late. I was dead asleep when my phone started vibrating on the nightstand. I swatted at it, declining the call without looking. It immediately started ringing again. I squinted at the screen. Evelyn Reed. I sighed and answered. Hello. I mumbled, my voice thick with sleep. Board meeting. I need you here. Her tone left no room for argument. What? Why? You'll see when you get here. I dragged myself out of bed, splashed some water on my face, pulled on the same t-shirt and shorts from the day before, slipped on my flip-flops, and called an Uber. By the time I arrived at the corporate headquarters, I was 30 minutes late. I pushed open the door to the boardroom. It was packed. The entire board of directors, all in expensive suits, all looking grim. Evelyn sat at the head of the table. Mark Vance sat to her right. When he saw me, a smug, triumphant smirk crossed his lips. Every head in the room turned to watch me. The atmosphere felt wrong. I felt like a stray dog that had wandered into a wolf pack's den. Mr. Miller, so glad you could join us, Mark said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. We've been waiting for you. I ignored him and found an empty chair in the corner. Now that everyone is here, we can continue, Mark said, standing up and walking to the large screen at the front of the room. He cleared his throat. Today, I must bring to the board's attention a matter of grave importance, one that concerns the very integrity of our company. He clicked a button on a remote. The screen lit up with a giant screenshot of my Ethereum Chronicles game. My warrior, Westwind, stood victoriously atop a pile of vanquished foes. I blinked. What was going on? The room filled with confused murmurs. What is this? A video game? Why are we looking at this in a board meeting? Mark savored the confusion. Gentlemen, please, he said, his voice booming. This is what our esteemed strategic advisor, Mr. Jacob Miller, does while he's at home contemplating. He clicked the remote again. A video started to play. It was a recording of my raid from last night. My voice, shouting commands, echoed through the silent boardroom. Tanks, get in there and hold aggro. Healers, watch their health bars. Team 3, watch your positioning. Get out of the fire. For the syndicate. When the video ended, the room was silent for a moment before erupting in hushed, angry whispers. You gotta be kidding me. This is our strategic advisor. This is a disgrace. We're paying him a fortune to play video games. I think Ms. Reed made a serious miscalculation here. The faces of the board members were grim. I sat in my corner, wishing the floor would open up and swallow me. This was it. The most public, mortifying humiliation of my life. I was toast. There was no spinning this. Mark watched my discomfort, his smile widening. He walked over to me, looking down his nose. Mr. Miller, he said, drawing out each word. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Or should I say, Westwind, what could I say? That I played games to relax? That leading a guild honed my leadership skills? No one would buy it. I fell back on my only defense, silence. I stared at him, my face a blank mask. Mark took my silence as a confession. He turned to Evelyn, his face a mask of faux disappointment. Ms. Reed, you see? This is the genius you put your faith in. He's a fraud. He takes a massive salary from his company and spends his days playing online games. This is not just a dereliction of duty. It's a betrayal of your trust. He was on a roll now. I move that we terminate Jacob Miller's contract immediately, and that we sue him to recover all compensation he has received under fraudulent pretenses. He looked at Evelyn, waiting for her to agree. Every eye in the room was on her, waiting to see how the Ice Queen would handle this colossal embarrassment. Evelyn's expression was unreadable. She stared at the game on the screen for a long, silent moment. Just as Mark was about to speak again, she finally moved. Her voice was dangerously calm. Mark, this is the grave matter you've been working on. Mark blinked. Ms. Reed, isn't it obvious? He's... Enough, she said, cutting him off as she stood up. She walked to the screen, pointing at the complex raid map. You all look at this and see a simple game. She turned, her gaze sweeping across the boardroom. I see a perfect textbook simulation of a market disruption strategy. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was staring at her, as if she'd lost her mind. A market disruption strategy? This. Mark's face looked like he'd just swallowed a bug. Ms. Reed, you can't be serious. It's just a game. Evelyn shot him a look of pure disdain. A frog in a well cannot imagine the ocean. She turned back to the screen and began her masterclass in overinterpretation. Look here, she said, pointing to my guild's name, the Slacker Syndicate. On the surface, slacking implies apathy, a surrender. But in reality, it is a form of passive resistance. It represents the silent majority of consumers in today's market, the ones ignored by mainstream products and harassed by aggressive marketing. By naming his team this, Jake shows that his core strategy from the very beginning was to capture this overlooked demographic. I sat in my corner, my jaw slack. I swear I just called it that because I like to slack off. Evelyn pointed to one of my transcribed commands. Tanks hold aggro. Healers watch their health bars. She read it aloud, her tone filled with admiration. This simple phrase contains a profound management philosophy. The tanks are our core products, our flagship services. They must be on the front lines, absorbing the market's attacks, bearing the brunt of the pressure. The healers are our cash flow, our logistical support. Their job is to ensure the survival of the tanks. This demonstrates Jake's clear understanding that to survive in a competitive market, a company needs both a strong core and a healthy cash flow. The board members started murmuring to each other. You know, she has a point. When you put it like that, it makes perfect sense. Mark's face was rapidly losing color. Evelyn wasn't done. Team 3, watch your positioning, get out of the fire. She pointed to another line. The fire represents unpredictable market risks, new regulations, a competitor surprise product launch. Team 3 represents our new, exploratory ventures. They are agile, mobile. They aren't meant to take direct hits, but they must remain vigilant, watching their positioning to avoid systemic risks. This shows an incredibly sophisticated approach to risk management. The board members were nodding now. The looks they were giving me had changed from scorn to contemplation. My back was soaked with sweat. Lady, please stop. I was just playing a game. Team 3 was Team 3 because Team 1 and Team 2 already wiped. Evelyn's speech reached its crescendo. And finally, the most critical command. Burn down that lich priest now. Her voice rose. In the game, the priest is a support unit that heals the main boss. But in business, what does it represent? It represents our competitors' ability to regenerate. It could be their core technology, their funding sources, their key talent. Jake didn't choose to go head-to-head with the powerful boss. He chose to eliminate the priest first. This is a strategy of surgical precision. He is telling us that when facing a powerful opponent, we should not engage in a brute force attack. We must first identify and neutralize their core strength, their healing mechanism, and go for the jugular. Clap, clap, clap. One of the older board members, a man known for his ruthless business tactics, began to applaud. The sound was infectious. Soon, the entire boardroom was on its feet, giving a standing ovation for Evelyn's brilliant analysis, and for me, the puppet master pulling the strings. Their eyes were filled with a fervent, zealous light, as if they had just witnessed not a video game, but a masterclass in corporate warfare. Mark Vance stood alone, his face ashen. The irrefutable proof he had so carefully prepared had just become the cornerstone of my legend. He looked at the applauding board, at Evelyn with her I knew it all along expression, and at me, the deer in the headlights in the corner. The world had ceased to make sense. "No, it can't be," he stammered, his voice a hoarse whisper. "It's just a game. You're all being fooled." Evelyn walked up to him, her expression glacial. "Mark," she said, her voice like steel, "a person's vision determines the world they can see. In your world, there is only KPIs and PowerPoint presentations. In Jake's world, there are galaxies." Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties as vice president. I'm transferring you to a warehouse management position in our Midwest distribution center. I suggest you spend some time there, expanding your vision. Mark's legs gave out, and he crumpled to the floor. Evelyn didn't spare him another glance. She walked over to me and extended her hand. "Mr. Miller, thank you for another illustrative lesson in strategy." I robotically shook her hand. It was cool and firm. I looked into her impossibly bright eyes, opened my mouth, and tried to tell her the truth. "Ms. Reed, actually, You don't have to say anything," she interrupted, a tiny, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips. "I understand." "No, you don't. You don't understand anything." I screamed internally. But on the outside, I just managed a smile that was probably more painful than a grimace. The meeting was over. I was escorted out of the room like a returning hero, surrounded by board members all wanting to shake my hand, to tell me how much they'd learned. I just nodded and smiled, my mind completely blank. "Mr. Miller, what's your take on the EV market? Mr. Miller, where do you see the next big opportunity in the metaverse? Mr. Miller, could we simulate a market disruption together sometime?" I felt like I was suffocating. I just wanted to go home. Ping. My phone buzzed. A text from a bank. "Your checking account, ending in XXXX, received a direct deposit of $500,000 on November 15th. Your new balance is $649,704.50. Memo. Special Contribution Award. $500,000. I stared at the number, feeling my soul leave my body. Was being misunderstood really this lucrative? Suddenly, being a fraud didn't seem so bad after all. I finally managed to escape the crowd by muttering something about a sudden stroke of inspiration that required immediate quiet contemplation. The board members parted from me like the Red Sea, their faces full of reverence. I practically fled back to my apartment. The moment I closed the door, I slid to the floor, my back against it. That was the most stressful experience of my entire life. I pulled out my phone and looked at the $500,000 deposit again. My heart hammered against my ribs. How many lines of code? How many all-nighters would it have taken to earn that much? Now, I got it for playing a video game. The process was terrifying, but the result was undeniably sweet. I lay on the cool floor, staring at the ceiling, and started to laugh. Public humiliation? Misunderstanding? Who cared? With this kind of money, they could misunderstand me all they wanted. I could get used to being a genius. I scrambled up, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank account. Staring at the long string of numbers, I made a decision. I was buying a place. No more studio apartment. It wasn't fitting for a strategic advisor. I spent the afternoon browsing real estate listings and found it. A penthouse condo in a new high-rise on the edge of the city. 2,000 square feet with a massive rooftop terrace. The price tag was over $2 million. My current funds were only enough for a down payment. I sighed. Looked like I'd have to keep up the hard work. Just as I was fantasizing about sipping a Coke on my future terrace, Evelyn's number flashed on my screen. My body tensed instinctively. I sat up straight. "Hello, Ms. Reed. Are you home?" "Yes." "The situation with the board has been handled," she said calmly. "Mark Vance is gone. You won't have to deal with any more dissent." "Okay. Your performance at the meeting today was excellent," she added. My performance? I spent the whole time in a state of catatonic terror. That sense of calm, of being the eye of the storm while chaos raged around you. Very few people possess that kind of composure. Oh boy, here we go again. I decided to try and get ahead of it this time. Ms. Read about the bonus. Was it not enough? No, I said quickly. I just feel like I didn't really do anything to earn it. It was the truth and also a test. I wanted to see what she would say. The line went silent. My heart started pounding again. Had she finally figured it out? Jake, she said, her voice suddenly serious. You need to understand something. Knowledge and wisdom are priceless. A single sentence from you saved a $50 million project. One of your simulations has clarified this company's entire strategic direction. That bonus isn't a gift. It's what you're worth. She paused. If you feel it's insufficient, I can authorize more. I was speechless. I had severely underestimated the power of confirmation bias. No, it's plenty. It's great. Good, she said. There's one other thing. Yes. The company owns a small parcel of land out in the old industrial district. It was slated for employee housing, but zoning changes killed the project. It's been sitting vacant for years. Too small and out of the way to be valuable, but a hassle to sell. The board wants to get rid of it, but there have been no takers. I'm putting you in charge of it. I blinked. Me? I don't know anything about real estate. I don't need you to. I just need your attitude. Should we sell it, hold it, or do something else with it? Think of it as a test. A test? Of what? My non-existent real estate knowledge? This felt like another trap. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. A stupid plot of land. I just wanted to be left alone. My eyes fell on the cactus on my windowsill, the only thing I'd brought with me from the office. I rarely paid any attention to it, and because of that, it was thriving. It was a deep, healthy green, not like the succulents I tried to raise before, fussing over them every day until they rotted. An idea sparked. A lazy, simple idea designed to get her off my back. Ms. Reed, I said, affecting a tone of serene detachment. A plot of land is no different from a potted plant. Oh, I could hear the interest in her voice. If you stare at it every day, trying to force it to appreciate, trying to cash it in, it will only disappoint you. The best thing you can do is just leave it there. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. That's right. Have someone put a fence around it. Plant some wildflowers, some grass, just so it doesn't look abandoned. And then, forget about it. Forget about it. Her voice was laced with confusion. Yes, I said firmly. Sometimes, doing nothing is the most effective action. The more you grasp for something, the more it slips through your fingers. It's better to let go and just wait for the flower to bloom. The pseudo-philosophical nonsense I was spouting was making me sick. I read on some mindfulness blog once. I couldn't believe I was actually using it. The other end of the line went silent for a long time. I could practically picture her, brow furrowed, trying to decode the profound wisdom in my bullshit. I understand, she finally said, her voice trembling slightly. Action through inaction. Patience and timing. Jake, you've reached an even higher plane of thought. What could I say? I hung up and let out a huge sigh of relief. That should hold her for a while. It was just some useless piece of land. She could do whatever she wanted with it. I went back to browsing for penthouses. I had no idea that my completely fabricated cactus theory was about to make me astronomically wealthy. Evelyn's efficiency was terrifying. The very next day, she dispatched her top assistant, a sharp, driven young man named Ethan, to deal with the useless plot of land. Ethan treated my words like scripture. Forget about it. Wait for the flower to bloom. He repeated the phrases, convinced they held some deep, esoteric meaning. He led a team to the site, a dreary, weed-choked lot surrounded by decaying warehouses. Mr. Miller's guidance is clear, Ethan explained to his team. We are to perform a landscape restoration, but with no overt purpose. The key is natural inaction. So like a park? One of his subordinates asked. No, Ethan said, pushing his glasses up his nose. Too intentional. He said, plant some wildflowers, some grass. He wants us to assist nature, not command it. It should look like it grew this way on its own. And so what should have been a $10,000 landscaping job ballooned into a $1 million ecological revitalization project. They hired top geological consultants to analyze the soil and hydrology to determine which native plants would thrive most naturally. They brought in a construction crew, but banned heavy machinery, which Ethan claimed would disturb the land's aura. Workers used hand tools, carefully turning the soil as if on an archaeological dig. I knew none of this. I was at my new condo, directing movers as they carefully set up my gaming rig. Yes, I'd used the money to make a down payment on the penthouse. I was now saddled with a mortgage, but I wasn't worried. As long as Evelyn was my boss, I had a feeling the consulting fees would keep rolling in. Standing on my massive terrace, drinking an ice-cold Coke, I felt like I was on top of the world. Meanwhile, at the work site, something happened. A worker, digging a hole for a tree, hit something hard. It wasn't a rock. He called the foreman, who called Ethan. Ethan looked at the rusted piece of metal poking out of the dirt, and his heart skipped a beat. He immediately halted all work and called the geology experts back. They arrived with sophisticated equipment and began scanning the site. Hours later, the lead geologist, an old professor with a shock of white hair, grabbed Ethan's arm, his eyes wide with excitement. "It's not an artifact. It's better." "What is it?" Ethan asked, his voice shaking. "A hot spring," the professor exclaimed. "A natural, geothermal hot spring, rich in minerals. And our initial scans suggest the reservoir is massive, with world-class temperature and water quality." Ethan froze. "A hot spring? Here? In this forgotten wasteland?" He thought back to my words. "Wait for the flower to bloom." The flower wasn't a flower. It was a torrent of liquid gold bubbling just beneath the surface. Forget about it wasn't about forgetting. It was about having the patience to let a hidden treasure mature. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. This Jake Miller wasn't an advisor. He was a prophet. He immediately reported the news to Evelyn. She was signing a document when she heard the words, "hot spring." Her pen stroke sliced across the page. She took a deep breath, keeping her voice steady. "Are you certain?" 100%. The geologists have a preliminary report. "Ms. Reed, we've hit the jackpot." Evelyn hung up the phone and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. A worthless piece of land, transformed into a gold mine by a single, cryptic piece of advice. Action through inaction. Wait for the flower to bloom. The words resonated in her soul. This wasn't business acumen. This was something closer to Zen mastery. Who was this man? What else did he know? Her fascination with me had reached its peak. And where was the prophet at this momentous time? I was on my new terrace, trying to figure out the assembly instructions for a new gas grill. That evening, Evelyn called. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "They found a hot spring on the industrial plot." "Oh yeah? That's cool," I said, distracted. I was trying to attach the burner assembly. "The company's stock shot up 10% this afternoon." "Neat. The board has approved a new development project, a luxury hot spring resort. The initial valuation is $500 million. "Uh-huh. Wait, how much?" The screwdriver slipped from my hand and clattered on the deck. $500 million, she repeated. I felt a wave of dizziness. My random, bullshit advice had just spawned a $500 million project. "The board has also decided that you will receive 5% equity in the new venture as a finder's fee." 5%? 5% of $500 million was. I tried to do the math in my head and failed. All I knew was that it was a number so large it was meaningless. Ms. Reed, my voice trembled. "I don't think. It's non-negotiable," she said. "You earned it." Also, ping, another text. "Your premier checking account ending in XXXX received a wire transfer of $2,500,000 on December 3rd. Your new balance is $3,149,554.50. Memo, project advance, $2.5 million. I stared at my phone, feeling like I was in a video game. "That's the board's advance on your first dividend payment." Evelyn's voice came through the phone. "I took the liberty of having a new private bank account open for you." How thoughtful. What was there to say? "Thank you, Ms. Reed. You're too generous." I heard a soft laugh on the other end of the line. It was light, airy, and it did something strange to my insides. I hung up and collapsed into a lounge chair on my terrace, staring up at the stars. My life had officially spun out of control, careening in a direction I couldn't comprehend, but was, to be honest, pretty damn awesome. Jake Miller, was now a multimillionaire. It was mostly on paper, but the new debit card in my wallet with a $3 million balance was a constant, staggering reminder. I was officially rich. I tossed the grill instructions in the trash. I would pay someone to build it. I hired a cleaning service, a personal chef. I ate a Michelin-star meal on my terrace, alone, and tried to smoke an expensive cigar. I nearly coughed up a lung, but felt right. But after the initial euphoria, a strange emptiness crept in. My ultimate goal in life, to achieve a state of permanent, well-funded slacking, had been realized. Now what? The games weren't as fun. The food was just food. I needed a new purpose. As I was contemplating this existential crisis, an unexpected visitor arrived. A man in a sharp suit with slick-back hair and a practiced, friendly smile appeared on my video intercom. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Mr. Jacob Miller?" "The strategic advisor," the man beamed. "My name is Richard Davis. I'm the vice president of Apex Innovations." Apex Innovations. I knew the name. They were our biggest competitor. "What did he want with me?" "Never heard of you," I said flatly. "Mr. Miller, I know you value your privacy, but I've come with the utmost sincerity. Could you spare me just 10 minutes of your time?" I almost said no, but a part of me was curious. I buzzed him in. Richard Davis stepped into my condo, and his eyes widened slightly. He was clearly surprised by the opulence. "Excellent taste, Mr. Miller," he complimented. "Have a seat," I said, pointing to the couch. "You have 10 minutes. I had to maintain the persona. He placed a portfolio on my coffee table. "Mr. Miller, I won't waste your time. I'm here on behalf of Apex Innovations to offer you a position. We are prepared to offer you 5 times your current compensation at your current company." He slid a folder across the table. "In this Riverview penthouse downtown, consider it a signing bonus." I glanced at the photos. 3,000 square feet, infinity pool, worth at least 10 million. My heart beat a little faster, but my face remained a stone mask. "Apex Innovations," I said slowly. "Tell me about them." Richard launched into his pitch, talking about their capital, their talent, their ambition. I listened, a strange sense of amusement washing over me. They thought I was a miracle worker. They thought my current company's success was all because of me, and they wanted to buy that magic for themselves. "Anything Evelyn Reed can give you, we can give you more," he declared. "Just say the word, and you will be in charge of Apex's entire 10-year strategic plan." He was painting a picture of power and influence, but all I felt was a deep, profound annoyance. Another person who wanted me to play the genius. All I wanted was to be left alone. My patience snapped. I was done playing their game. It was time for some brutal honesty. I stood up and walked to the edge of my terrace, my back to him. "Your company's foundation," I said, my voice weary, "is garbage." Richard's smile vanished. Mr. Miller, what do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said." I turned to face him, my expression cold. "You're trying to build a skyscraper on a cracked foundation. The taller you build, the harder you'll fall." It was the truth. I might not know business, but I was a programmer for a decade. I knew a shoddy structure when I saw one. Apex was famous for chasing trends, for starting projects that went nowhere, for having a chaotic internal structure. Their company was a mess of tech debt and bad management, a house of cards waiting for a breeze. "Instead of wasting your money trying to hire me, you should go home and take a hard look at your own house," I continued. "Check your load-bearing walls for cracks. Check your plumbing for clogs. You don't want the whole thing to collapse before you even break ground." There, that should do it. He'd see I wasn't a prophet, just a cynical jerk. He'd take his $10 million penthouse and leave me in peace. But I had, once again, underestimated the power of human interpretation. Richard Davis stood frozen, the color draining from his face. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead. The look in his eyes shifted from reverence to pure, unadulterated fear. "Load-bearing walls. Cracked," he whispered. "Plumbing. Clogged." He began to tremble, because I, by sheer dumb luck, had just used their own internal code word for their biggest secret problems. The cracked walls referred to their teetering financial situation, propped up by risky loans. The clogged plumbing was a nod to a massive embezzlement scandal brewing in their logistics department. These were secrets known only to the highest levels of the company, and I, a complete outsider, had just laid them bare. To him, this wasn't an insult. It was a prophecy. I understand," he stammered, his voice shaking. "Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you for the warning." He gave me a deep, formal bow. Then, without another word, He grabbed his portfolio and practically fled from my apartment. I stood there, bewildered. You just left? What about my penthouse? Did I just talk myself out of $10 million? Whatever. At least I had my peace and quiet back. I had no idea that my few lines of honest, cynical feedback were about to trigger an earthquake that would bring Apex Innovations to its knees. Richard Davis stormed into the office of the CEO, Robert Shaw, who was in the middle of charming a group of investors. Robert, this new green energy venture is a game changer. One of them was saying, "Don't be so sure." Richard yelled, bursting into the room, pale and sweating. "Chairman, it's a disaster." "Richard, what is the meaning of this?" Shaw demanded. "We can't take their money. If we do, the company is finished." Richard swept the investment proposals off the desk. "Have you lost your mind?" Shaw roared. "No, you have." Richard jabbed a finger at his boss. "The load-bearing walls are cracked, and you're still trying to add another floor? Are you trying to kill us all?" The investors exchanged nervous glances. What load-bearing walls? Robert Shaw's heart went cold. That was their secret phrase for the company's precarious finances. How could Richard say it out loud? "He's talking nonsense," Shaw said, trying to save face. "Am I?" Richard laughed, a wild, broken sound. "I met him, the oracle from our competitor, Jake Miller." Shaw's breath caught. "What did he say?" Richard took a deep breath. "Your foundation is garbage," he recited. "Check your load-bearing walls for cracks. Check your plumbing for clogs." With every word, Robert Shaw's face grew paler. The investors were not stupid. Their smiles were gone, replaced by suspicion. "He knows everything," Richard cried. "He even knows about the kickback scheme in purchasing, the clogged plumbing. He saw right through us. It was a warning. If we go forward with this deal, the company will do exactly what he said it would do, collapse." The investors stood up as one. "Mr. Shaw, I think we need to postpone this discussion. We'll need to reassess our position, pending a review of your company's structural integrity." They walked out, leaving Shaw and a sobbing Richard Davis in the ruined office. A deep, terrifying chill settled over Robert Shaw. How could Jake Miller have known? Did he have spies? Or was he something else entirely? Fear took root. Shaw canceled the new venture and ordered a brutal, top-to-bottom internal audit. He would find every crack, every clog. The audit unleashed chaos. It uncovered years of rot. Fake numbers, failed projects, corrupt executives. The company, which had looked so powerful from the outside, was rotten to the core. Dozens of executives were fired. Partners pulled out. Banks called in their loans. The stock price nosedived. In a single week, Apex Innovations, a titan of the industry, imploded under the weight of its own corruption. I read about it in the news, lounging on my terrace. Apex Innovations loses billions in market value amidst internal crisis. I was baffled. All I did was say a few true things. How did that destroy a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Ping. Evelyn. Of course. "Did you see the news about Apex?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. "I did." "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" What could I say? I said nothing. "The taller you build, the harder you'll fall," she quoted my words back to me. It came true. "Jake, what are you?" Don't answer." She cut me off. "I had someone look into it. Richard Davis visited you. He went back to his office and told his board you gave him a divine revelation. The entire industry is talking. They're saying our company has an oracle on retainer, someone who can decide the fate of a business with a single sentence." My scalp tingled. "Please stop. I'm just a guy who wants to be left alone." "Jake," Evelyn's voice became intensely serious. "I have a request." "What is it?" "I want you to be my life coach." I choked on my Coke. My life coach? Me? For a billionaire Ice Queen CEO? That was more absurd than running for president. "Ms. Reed, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious," she said. The blank resignation, the taco truck analogy, the flowering land, and now the collapse of Apex. What you have is more than business sense. It's a profound wisdom, an ability to see the true nature of things. I need that wisdom. My company needs it. I had a splitting headache. This misunderstanding had grown to monstrous proportions. "Ms. Reed, I think there's been a huge—" "I know what you're going to say," she interrupted me. "Again, you're going to say that true wisdom is silent, that it can't be taught, only experienced. Right. I gave up. Where are you? She asked suddenly. Home. Send me the address. Why? My new life coach seems to be having an existential crisis. Isn't it my job to come and receive my lesson in person? Was that a hint of a joke in her voice? No, couldn't be. Before I could protest, she hung up. 30 minutes later, my doorbell rang. It was Evelyn. She wasn't wearing a suit. She was in a simple beige sweater and a long skirt, with no makeup. She looked normal. Almost. She was holding a fruit basket. May I come in? I let her in. It was the first time she'd been to my place. She took in a massive, sparsely furnished living room, her eyes lingering on my ostentatious gaming setup. So this is where you do your contemplation? Yeah, I mumbled. She walked out onto the terrace and saw my cactus. So this is the famous plant that's waiting to bloom? She asked, a small smile on her face. That's the one. Has it ever bloomed? Nope. Then why do you keep it? Because it's easy to take care of, I said, the honest words slipping out before I could stop them. Evelyn stared at me for a second, and then she laughed. A real, genuine laugh that made her eyes crinkle at the corners. I found myself staring. I'd never seen her look like that. Easy to take care of, she repeated, still smiling. Jake, you always manage to say the most profound things in the simplest way. She looked at me, her eyes shining. We spend our lives chasing the complicated, the difficult. We forget that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones that are easy to take care of, the ones that last. I had a feeling she wasn't just talking about the cactus. The atmosphere shifted, becoming charged with an energy I couldn't decipher. We stood in silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling below us. Jake, she said softly. Yeah. Do you know why I was so determined to keep you at the company? I shook my head. Because I was tired, she said, her voice laced with a vulnerability I'd never heard before. From the day I took over this company, my life has been a constant battle. I have to be perfect, strong, infallible. I'm like a machine that never gets to power down. And then, I saw your blank resignation letter. She turned to face me. In that empty space, I saw a part of myself. The part that was sick of it all, the part that just wanted to walk away. But I can't. You could. You live by a set of rules I can't understand. You're lazy, you're cynical, you don't care what anyone thinks. But you always see the truth. You're like a mirror, showing the rest of us how ridiculous we are. I didn't say anything because she wasn't wrong. So I kept you. At first, it was just to use your wisdom. But then I started to depend on you. I depend on your absurdity, your nonsense. It's the only thing that lets me breathe in this suffocating world. She stepped closer. I could see the faint flecks of gold in her eyes. Jake, I didn't come here to ask you to be my life coach. A faint blush colored her cheeks. I came here to confess. My brain shut down. Confess? Don't say anything, she said, touching a finger to my lips. It was cool and soft. My face felt like it was on fire. I just wanted to be sincere, the way you always are with me. I think, she said, her voice barely a whisper, I'm starting to fall for you, you strange, ridiculous man. She pulled her hand back, turned, and walked to the door. She paused, looking back over her shoulder with a mischievous glint in her eye. By the way, with Apex gone, I acquired all their green energy patents and technology for pennies on the dollar. I won't be giving you a bonus for that one. Why? I managed to ask. Because, she said, a slow smile spreading across her face. You should always keep in the family. The door clicked shut, leaving me standing alone in my living room, her last words echoing in my head. Keep it in the family? What did that even mean? I touched my face. It was burning up. My internal CPU had just suffered a catastrophic failure. The next morning, I woke up on my couch. Evelyn's confession had short-circuited my brain. She liked me? Why? Because I was lazy? Because I wore flip-flops? I couldn't figure it out. The doorbell rang, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. Was it her again? I crept to the door and checked the video feed. It was Ethan, her assistant, looking even more deferential than usual. Good morning, Mr. Miller. Ms. Reed asked me to drop off a document for you. I opened the door. He held out a file folder with both hands, bowing slightly. Your new contract, sir. New contract. I took it and opened it. The title made my eyebrows shoot up. Lifelong Strategic Partnership Agreement. That sounded suspiciously like an indentured servitude contract. I started reading. Party A, Evelyn Reed. Party B, Jacob Miller. Clause 1. Effective upon signing. Party B, Jacob Miller, shall be recognized as the lifelong partner of Party A, Evelyn Reed. I almost dropped the folder. Lifelong partner? Was this a joke? Ethan, is this right? I asked, my voice cracking. Is this an employment contract? He gave me a knowing smile. Mr. Miller, please. Of course not. It's a prenuptial agreement. A prenup? My world tilted on its axis. The timeline here was insane. Confession one night, prenup the next morning? That was some CEO-level efficiency. I kept reading. Party A, Evelyn, was obligated to cover all of Party B's living expenses, including but not limited to food, housing, entertainment, and the satisfaction of all reasonable slacking-related needs. In addition, 30% of her controlling shares in the company would be transferred to my name. My obligations, to continue to slack off. And, oh, here was one. Party B must agree to accompany Party A for a minimum of one meal, one movie, or one session of mutually beneficial discourse per week. Mutually beneficial discourse was in bold. This wasn't a prenup. It was a golden ticket to the life I'd always dreamed of. Ms. Reed also wanted me to mention, Ethan added, that all terms are negotiable. If you feel one session a week is too demanding, I'm sure she would be open to making it monthly. Was I unsatisfied? I was so satisfied I wanted to cry, but I had to maintain my image. I closed the folder, my face a mask of calm contemplation. Evelyn is a little hasty, I said slowly. Ethan nodded vigorously. Yes, sir, that's what we all told her. But she is very devoted to you. So, the agreement? He prompted. I'll think about it, I said, dismissing him. He bowed and practically ran out the door. I sat there, staring at the contract, facing the biggest decision of my life. Sign it, and my life would be forever entangled with that crazy, brilliant woman. My simple, slacker existence would be over. Don't sign it, and walk away from 30% of a multi-billion-dollar company. My lifelong dream was to get rich without doing any work. This was it, the ultimate shortcut. All I had to do was sign my name. And Evelyn, I thought of her on my terrace, the flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. Maybe being entangled with her wouldn't be so bad. In fact, it might even be nice. I picked up a pen. On one side of the fork in the road was my continued existence as a fake guru. On the other, a lifetime of being a kept man. I hesitated for exactly 3 seconds. Then I scribbled my name on the signature line. To hell with freedom. I was ready for a life of luxurious servitude. I took a picture of the signed page and texted it to Evelyn. Got the contract. I have a counter-proposal regarding the mutually beneficial discourse clause. Her reply was instantaneous. Question mark. A slow grin spread across my face. I typed out my response. I suggest we make it a daily requirement. End.